we are being joined by the Kickflip Kid himself, Ryder Reid. Ryder, how you doing, man?
I'm all right, guys. How about you?
Hey, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, guys.
So we'll go ahead and get started here. Of course, you are a student at Absolute Intense Wrestling School up in Cleveland under Dom Guarini. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, it is.
And how long have you been training under Dom there, or how long have you been wrestling as a whole?
I started training at the AIW Academy. I think it was April. It was April of 2017 is when I signed up and I started training.
Okay, awesome. And so you're a little bit newer then. What's been your experience so far at AIW school? I hear a lot of good things about what they do up there.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's one thing that I've learned so far, it's how lucky we are to have AIW itself. The opportunities that we get there are not very common for a lot of schools and a lot of trainees to get as early as we get. The exposure, some of the people that we get to step in the ring with.
Right.
I'm very grateful to be a part of the AIW Academy. I have nothing but great things to say. We're brought along at a very appropriate pace, I would say. There's a lot of schools where you train for 3 or 4 months and you're on shows when you're just not ready. I think AIW really brought us along at the best pace for us.
Right.
That's awesome. Now, you call yourself, Ryder Reid, the Kickflip Kid. Tell us a little bit about who the Kickflip Kid is and how you kind of came up with this kind of persona when you step between the ropes.
Well, I guess I can say that this persona isn't my first one. When I debuted, I was trying to force something that I wasn't exactly comfortable with, and this is a lot more me. When I was in high school, and shortly after high school, I was in metal bands, and I was a vocalist and a frontman, and kind of wanted to take that attitude into the ring, and getting fans involved. And I've always been a skater, and actually kind of a backstory on how I came up with it. I had a show at Warped Tour in Cleveland this year, and I was normally working in heel, and we went to the Warped Tour, and the owner, John Thorne, he was like, "Hey, you kind of look like you belong here, so I want you to work your babyface today." And nice. I was like, "Oh, okay." I was super uncomfortable with it,
right? And
I think I wrestled probably 7 or 8 matches that day, and it seemed to get super over with the crowd. And honestly, I was just me. I wore a snapback hat, fanny pack, and just a T-shirt, and I was excited and hyped up, and it was a lot more natural. And I talked to John Thorne after the day was over, and I was like, "Hey, can I kind of roll with this?" And he was like, "I was thinking the same thing."
Nice.
That's awesome, and that's what they always say, right? Is that the best personas, the best characters in wrestling are just yourself turned up to 11, right? So it's cool.
Exactly. It's me, just a little bit more, I guess, colorful.
Right.
Exactly. So you mentioned a couple things. First off, your kind of skater kid background. Kaz and I have a question. Both of us have spent plenty of time, probably more time than we should as adults, in Journeys and PacSons. What's your go-to brand of skate shoe?
I mean, I have to say Vans.
Vans.
Yeah, very classic.
I have to say Vans.
Yeah, I'm currently rocking a pair of Supras myself. They are black with a rubber sole, so I could wear them to work when I walk as well. But a good pair of Vans is always an easy route to go.
Did you ever have a pair of Etnies?
I was just about to say, if there's no Vans around, Etnies are my go-to, and occasionally DCs.
Yes, yeah, those were just so those shoes were so comfortable. The padding inside, they were just great to slip on. I'd wear them everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
What's your least favorite brand?
What's that?
What's your least favorite brand of skate shoe?
This is going to come across as super shocking. I don't like Nike skate shoes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Nike's a good football, baseball, running shoe, but leave the skate shoe to the skate shoe.
More of like a running sport.
Right.
Correct.
Nike's a good.
This is sorry, you have to excuse us. It's very rare when we get to talk about something other than wrestling with wrestlers. So.
Right.
You also mentioned metal background. So tell us a little bit about that and kind of how that and your skating background has helped you in wrestling, either with your character or in the ring. And especially kind of just touched on how it is to be a frontman for heavy metal. What type of metal were you? Was it straight up metal, or are we talking hardcore, metalcore, grindcore? I know them all, man.
I would say more metalcore. Think like A Day to Remember, Asking Alexandria, that kind of stuff. And I think it kind of it helps me in the ring because, like I said, I was a frontman in those bands, and you have to have a level of confidence, like on stage. You have to carry yourself and command a crowd, and if you don't do that, people are going to be very disengaged.
Right.
And I feel like carrying that attitude into the ring, and you should be focused on your opponent, but I love getting the fans involved and commanding that and bringing them into it and making them a part of it, and having experience doing so.
Right.
I feel like that helps me a lot, just giving them an overall better experience.
Like you feed off them, they feed off you. It's indie wrestling at its best,
Exactly.
You mentioned A Day to Remember. That's probably one of my top just overall rock bands in general. I used to go to the Attic as a kid in Dayton, Ohio, in high school. That was where I spent most of my weekends at metal shows. So I definitely am familiar with kind of what you're saying there. A lot of the same kind of frenetic energy that you get. A lot of high energy in both metal and wrestling. What's your favorite metal band right now? Or favorite band overall, I guess?
Oh, man.
Asking the tough questions.
Oh, come on. As It Lay Dying's new album is super good. I've been listening to them a lot lately. I still listen to Stand Up and Scream by Asking Alexandria regularly, like back in 2009 stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Favorite band overall? Probably I would have to go with either A Day to Remember, just because they've stuck to their sound and mastered it so well throughout the years, or Bring Me the Horizon for the exact opposite reason, as they have changed styles drastically with pretty much each album, and to me they've perfected each of those styles. They've gone from a crazy death metal grindcore all the way to radio rock today, and pretty much everything in between.
Kind of molded and adapted. Yeah, that's
absolutely
good.
Yeah.
A Day to Remember is good. They always.
Oh yeah, like I said,
Who doesn't like A Day to Remember?
All right.
I've listened to their entire discography, God knows how many times. So
right.
That's awesome. So going back a little bit towards wrestling here, we have a question from Ryan. Ryan asks, do wrestling schools teach a classroom-style course on the history of wrestling? And if not, do you think that wrestling schools would benefit from such a thing?
That's a good question. It's a different question.
I wouldn't say that they have an actual class. That's actually one of those things where you're kind of expected to like know these things. There was a lot when I came in. There was a lot that I didn't know that I was expected to already know, and I was expected to learn fast. Like, I've never watched pretty much any indie matches. I was a straight, WWE guy. Like, that's all I watched. And I had a lot of persona ideas, and they were like, "Oh, you mean like Marty Scurll?" I'm like, "Who's Marty Scurll?" And now I'm like one of his biggest fans.
Right.
And in doing so, you watch, like, I searched this match, and I'm like, but this match leads to this, and then so on and so forth. And as far as the history of wrestling goes, it kind of naturally happens. And when you're learning something like how to run the ropes or a certain way to do a DDT, they're like, "Oh, you can do a DDT like this guy did it, or this guy did it, back in the 80s. I'm like, "Oh, well, I've never seen him do it, so now I have to go and find that and check it out." And you watch a whole match, and you're like, "Wow, like, there's a lot different things going on here."
Right.
So I would say, as long as you're invested, those things will kind of just naturally happen over the course of your training and just through conversation. But no, there isn't an actual class based on the history of wrestling.
That's good to know, because that is often something people don't think about, is how do you learn the history? I know WWE had a documentary for a while, Breaking Ground, where they showed kind of the insides of NXT. And in there, at least in the Performance Center, they have every single tape that's ever been owned in any sort of way by WWE.
Right.
And they actually do have a class where they sit down and they go, all right, let's watch this, what they do right, what they do wrong. But on the independents, like you alluded to, you don't have that. It's kind of a free-for-all. The independents as a whole, from booking yourself, from developing your character, anything outside of school is on your own. So it's no surprise to hear that.
In school time, on that topic, I'm sorry to cut you off, but
No.
School time is so limited that there isn't necessarily time to do those things. Like, when you look at those guys at the Performance Center, that's their 40-hour-a-week job.
Right.
Yes.
They're down there, and their job is wrestling. They don't have to worry about anything else outside of that.
Right.
So they can say, from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. today, we're going to watch matches from 1984, and then we're going to go and work out, and then we're going to go and do some cardio. At wrestling school, you have a 3-hour, 4-hour time window of training, a couple times a week.
Right. It's pretty much just
so that's really where
practice.
Right. It's whereas a lot of the outside stuff, other than in the ring, is really up to you and your own will and your own drive to get better at and get more knowledgeable on.
Right. Yeah, that makes complete sense, because you guys have outside jobs and whole other lives to mold in with your training schedule, and just from what their third interview, just from what you guys have told, you guys pick up quick and deliver some phenomenal matches. So props to you guys for doing this on such a hardened schedule.
And you have to, or especially AIW fans. AIW fans are very educated and smart fans.
Right.
And if you mess up, they know and they will let you know. They're a fun but brutal bunch.
That's good too, because if you do something wrong, they'll let you know about it, and then you can just learn from that,
Exactly.
Ryder, you mentioned before Marty Scurll, not knowing before you started, and now you're kind of a bigger fan to kind of develop who you are. Who are some other people that that you love watching and learning from and picking up from?
Will Ospreay, I like a lot. Pete Dunne, Mark Andrews, Ricochet. That's a common answer. Tyler Bate, I like a lot. Buddy Murphy. Actually, more Buddy Murphy's workout videos.
Well, that's awesome. Those are all new names too, like newer names.
Yeah, and this is probably not something that you'll commonly hear, and I might be wrong for saying this, but I try to keep my wrestling viewing as a lot more modern than I do like older stuff. Like it's very seldom that I'll watch old like WCW stuff. I'm watching wrestling today because that's the market, and I want to learn from that. I want to see a lot of the stuff that I watch fan reactions.
Yes.
Did the fans take that? Did they not like that? Because those are the fans of today.
Right.
And that's a smart way to look at it.
Yeah, and sometimes my trainers or just people around AIW and other promotions that I've been at, they're like, "Oh, did you watch this match from 1997?" I'm like, "No, I didn't," because it's not the same to me. And it might be important and vital in some cases, but I want to know what the fans want now.
Right. Yeah, because the fan base as well as wrestling evolves with the time. So fans 10 years ago are a lot different than they are now.
Extremely.
Yeah, it definitely seems like, Ryder, that you're trying to stay on the pulse, which, like you mentioned, there's a lot of nostalgia, especially for that 1997 Attitude Era kind of style of wrestling. So you often hear a lot of people saying, what can I take from old and polish it to make it new? Whereas it kind of sounds like you're just saying, like, how can I continue to stay new? How can I continue to stay original? And how can I continue to give fans right now directly what they want?
Right.
Absolutely.
So going back to AIW, you had a match this past Saturday at Zero Cool over in the Winchester.
Yep.
Now, that is usually a music venue, correct?
Yeah.
Did you ever perform there maybe during your metal days at all? I'm not sure exactly what
I did not. That seems to be one of the only places in Lakewood that I haven't played.
Your first time performing there, and is as a professional wrestler. Now you are in a scramble match. How was that match? How was it being in a scramble match with 5 other people, all with different styles? A lot of them also coming from the same school as you. And just kind of take us through the match. We weren't able to see it live, but kind of what happened there and how'd you feel?
Well, first of all, when I got there, I was expecting the 5 other guys as were on the flyer. However, Gary Baller wasn't able to make it, so he was replaced with a guy called BMD, and he is not an AIW guy. He made his AIW debut, so that was a little twist that I wasn't expecting. So that was first and foremost the biggest wrench in the works there. Then we were using our pony ring, which is our practice ring, because the ceiling in there is very, very low. And if we used our show ring, you would have hardly had any room to stand up, let alone wrestle. So that was also different. The ring was also butt up against the wall, so that completely took away one side of outside of the ring.
Wow. Okay.
Barricades were super close to the ring. Fans, you could almost feel them breathe on you. That they were that close.
Ooh.
As far as the match, this is not my first 6-man scramble, so I kind of have experience in these. You never really know what you're gonna get. There's a lot of different options, a lot of different multi-man moves that happen, and a lot of different personalities to work with.
Right.
I think the highlight of the match was Dr. Dan was in the Tree of Woe, and he was hanging upside down there. And I took an opportunity, and I made him sit up, and I grabbed him by the nipples, and I just twisted as hard as I could. And
was it super effective?
Everybody loved it. I think that was my highlight move of the match.
Are we looking at a possible new move in your repertoire?
I was thinking about that today, and I was like, it was very effective. Why not, right? We'll see what happens in the future as far as that goes.
Right.
Unfortunately, Dr. Dan came out with the win.
He didn't get the pinfall on you, did he?
No. He, I believe he pinned his former partner, Brian Carson, and his new partner, All Ego Ethan Page, came in to help him do that.
So, first of all, I don't know where you picked up the nipple twister, but I certainly don't believe it was any Ricochet matches that you're watching. But nice secret weapon there. And second of all, boo Dr. Dan, at least until he comes on the show himself to explain himself. Yeah, he can explain himself.
Boo Dr. Dan anyway.
Yes, we'll still boo him. Don't worry. Coming from out of this match, what is next for Ryder Reid in AIW? What are you looking for next? Are you just looking up to pick up a win to kind of redeem yourself?
That's what I was going to say. So far I am 1-2 in AIW, and that one win came in a 8-man tag team match where I was actually not a part of the finish. So I guess what I'm looking for right now is I'm real hungry for my first singles victory.
Win. All right.
That's my short-term goal right now.
Awesome. Well, we hope it comes from you soon. So we have a question here from Dylan. He says, and I don't know how much wrestling do you do outside of Ohio?
It's funny you say that. I had someone ask me the other day the same question. I was thinking about it, and I think I've wrestled more matches outside of Ohio than I have in.
Oh wow!
If not, it's pretty close. Especially like right after I first debuted about 8 months ago, I was wrestling in Pittsburgh quite a bit. I wrestled in Philadelphia, Southern Indiana. I've been all the way to St. Louis.
Where are you from? You're from Cleveland?
Yes.
Right. Nice. All right. So you do some traveling for this, and some of those places are like what, a good 12 to 16-hour drives, especially St. Louis.
Yeah, St. Louis was about 11 hours.
Ooh.
It was 11 hours there, 11 hours back, and that's a different time zone.
Right. Oh.
Yeah. So I had left my house in Cleveland at about, I'd say 12:30 in the morning to make it to a 2 o'clock in the afternoon show in St. Louis, and I left right from the show and drove back. So I did about 22 hours of driving in about a 25, 26-hour span.
My goodness. A lot of Red Bull, I'm assuming, right?
I'm a monster guy.
There you go. Of course. So Dylan asked, how did you get involved with out-of-state events? So obviously outside of just getting booked, I guess, how do you market yourself and reach out to try to get booked for all these places?
Well, in the early stages, it's a lot of help from your peers. I know Zach Thomas helped me get on a couple of shows in Pittsburgh. Dr. Dan helped me get on the one in Philadelphia. PB Smooth got me in touch with the guy in St. Louis. And then there's been a couple as of late, like QCW and Midwest Championship Wrestling. Those guys have kind of messaged me, and I've been in contact with them myself. And as time goes on and my name is becoming a little bit more established, I'm starting to be able to do things more on my own. But real early on, it's been with some much appreciated help from some of my peers.
That's awesome to hear. And obviously 8 months from a debut to already be able to travel to those places, that's something that some people don't get to do at all in their career. So also you're doing something right.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. The last 2 weeks, the last 2 interviews we had been nothing but good things to say about you. So we were looking forward to this interview, and Ryder Reid. Ryder Reid. That's all I heard for the last 2 weeks on this show.
So the Kickflip Kid's doing something right. So we're coming towards the end of the show, Ryder. I do want to thank you so much for joining us. Where can people catch you online?
Online, I do have a Facebook fan page. The name is Ryder Reid. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter at Ryder Reid Wrestling. That's about all I have up right now. I do post on there very often about my next bookings.
Perfect. So give those a follow. We of course will have your interview up on our YouTube page for people to check out. They'll have the social media info as well. But thank you so much again, Ryder, for joining us.
Thank you, dude. Dude, everything's great, man. You keep doing what you're doing.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much.
No problem. We'll have to sit down and talk about a day to remember sometime soon.
Absolutely.
All right, man. You have a good one.
Take care.
You too. Thanks.